Have you ever dealt with a nightmare neighbor from the HOA? Well, my story takes the cake. My name is Jacob, and I inherited a beautiful ranch, my family's legacy for generations. It was my sanctuary, a sprawling piece of heaven away from the city hustle. I loved every inch of it, from the old oak tree my grandfather planted to the rickety fence I planned to fix. But there was one problem, and her name was Karen. Karen was the self-appointed queen of our local HOA. She had a rule book thicker than a dictionary and a stare that could curdle milk. From day one, she made it her mission to make my life difficult. My grass was a 4-2 long. My mailbox wasn't the approved shade of beige. My dog barked with what she called excessive enthusiasm. It was a constant stream of petty complaints and violation notices. I tried to be neighborly, but it was like talking to a brick wall with a clipboard. Last summer, I had to go on an urgent month-long business trip overseas. I arranged for a friend to check on the ranch, feed my animals, and keep an eye on things. I thought everything was covered. As I was packing, Karen cornered me by my truck. "Leaving for a while, are we, Jacob?" she said, her eyes gleaming. "The HOA has rules about vacant properties. You know, I'll be keeping a close watch." I just rolled my eyes, assured her everything was taken care of, and left, eager to get away from her meddling. The trip was a success, and I managed to wrap things up a week early. I was so excited to get home. I didn't tell anyone I was coming back sooner. I wanted to surprise my friends, and most of all, just be back in my own space. I pulled up my long driveway late one afternoon, my heart swelling with that familiar feeling of being home. But as I got closer to the house, something felt terribly wrong. The place was buzzing with activity. Cars I didn't recognize were parked all over my lawn. And there, on a makeshift stage near my barn, was a man with a microphone shouting numbers. My blood ran cold when I saw the huge banner strung between 2 trees. Ranch auction. Everything must go. I slammed on the brakes, my mind reeling. What on earth was happening? I jumped out of my truck and sprinted towards the crowd. And who do I see in the middle of it all, directing people with a smug grin on her face? Karen. She was holding a gavel, looking like a judge at a country fair. People were bidding on my furniture, my tools, even my grandfather's antique tractor. It was a full-blown auction of my entire life, and she was running it. I was seeing red. I pushed through the bewildered crowd straight up to her. "Karen, what is the meaning of this? This is my property. These are my things," I roared. She looked at me, not with shock, but with pure, unadulterated annoyance. "Jacob, you're not supposed to be back for another week," she snapped, as if I was the one interrupting her plans. She then had the audacity to explain her twisted logic. "Your property was deemed abandoned, according to HOA Bylaw 7.3b, she said, tapping her clipboard. "I was simply liquidating the assets to cover the fines you've accumulated for your numerous violations and to pay for the upkeep of the property in your absence." I couldn't believe my ears. She was auctioning off my entire ranch, my heritage, because my grass was supposedly too long while I was away. Before I could even process the insanity of it all, she whipped out her phone. "This man is trespassing," she shrieked into the receiver. "He's disrupting a legal HOA proceeding. Send the police immediately." The crowd started murdering, confused. Some people who knew me looked horrified. Karen was calling 911 ... on the ... on my own property. I felt like I was in some kind of bizarre alternate reality. Minutes later, 2 police cars came screaming up the driveway, lights flashing. The officers got out looking confused by the scene of a half-finished auction and a very angry homeowner. Karen immediately ran to them. "Officers, thank goodness this man is an intruder. Arrest him," she demanded, pointing a trembling, accusatory finger at me. I calmly walked towards the officers, my hands up. "Officers," I said, my voice shaking with rage, but trying to stay composed. "My name is Jacob Miller. This is my ranch. I have the deed, the title, and my driver's license right here to prove it. This woman," I said, gesturing to Karen, "has taken it upon herself to auction off my possessions without my knowledge or consent while I was on a business trip." One of the officers looked from me to Karen, then at the auctioneer, who had gone completely silent. He asked for my ID and the property documents, which I quickly provided from my truck. As he reviewed them, his partner started talking to the auctioneer, who looked like he wanted a ground to swallow him whole. He admitted Karen had hired him, showing him some forged documents she'd created, claiming the HOA had foreclosed on the property. The officer handed back my ID. "Well, Mr. Miller, it seems you're exactly who you say you are. Everything is in order." He then turned to Karen, his expression hardening. "Ma'am, you're going to have to come with us." Karen's face went from smug to ghostly white in a second. "What? You can't be serious." "I am the president of the HOA. I was upholding the bylaws," she sputtered. The officer wasn't having any of it. He explained she was being detained for investigation of multiple crimes, including grand larceny, breaking and entering, and filing a false police report. Watching her being led to the police car in handcuffs was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. The legal battle that followed was long and messy, but in the end, justice prevailed. Karen faced serious charges, was forced to pay for damages and legal fees, and was, of course, booted from the HOA permanently. The community was stunned, and new leadership was quickly elected, leadership that actually cared about being good neighbors. It was a wild ride, but it taught me to always stand up for what's yours. Thanks for listening to my crazy story. It just goes to show you never know what's going to happen, even in your own backyard. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like and hit that subscribe button for more. See you next time.